Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Alice Moran, Chris Siddiqui, and Martha Chavez. Sail into summer. It's me, Chris Siddiqui, and I'm the winner of Because News. Congratulations to my runners-up, Martha Chavez and Alice Moran. Because News is written and produced by Shannon Higgins, David Carroll, Gavin Crawford, Phil Long, and Jess Klemowski. This week, they had help from the most gorgeous woman in the world, Aurora Brown, and the most fascinating woman on the planet, John Blair. Rounding out the team is Aaron Conway, Bronwyn Page, Errol Gonzalez, and our recording engineer, Paul Hodge.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Angeline Tadaweo hosts The Block.
Afrobeats to jazz, hip-hop to R&B, calypso, Kez the Band, Michelle Montano, Bob Marley, Bounty Killer. So we really give all these artists a chance to shine, and the key is in the programming, in making it make sense, and making sure that the music is fluid, a fluid experience.
The Block with Angeline Tadaweo. Available now on CBC Listen.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Rosanna Hempel in Winnipeg. At 12 o'clock, it's 24 in Winnipeg. Sun and cloud today, a risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon, a high of 28. It'll feel hotter at 33. A woman originally from Dauphin River First Nation is the latest victim of homicide in Winnipeg. Police were called to the 500 block of Balmoral Avenue around 12:30 Sunday morning. They found a woman with life-threatening injuries. She was taken to hospital in critical condition, where she later died. The woman has been identified as 29-year-old Norma Jean Sumner. No arrests have been made. Sumner is the 22nd homicide in Winnipeg so far this year. A U.S. police chief who has studied landfill searches says a number of factors could lead to a successful search of the Prairie Green landfill. A search will begin this fall, more than 2 years after the remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron were placed in a dumpster. Brian Paulson was the chief of police in Nebraska when the landfill was searched for the remains of a young boy. He says even though they did not find the boy's body, they did find other well-preserved items.
Clothes that were saturated with blood were found in that landfill and had not decomposed. We had a cadaver dog in the landfill that alerted. We hand dug in that area, found this material, and then tracked it backwards. But remarkably, things don't decompose that quickly in a landfill.
Psychologists were on hand to help the searchers at the landfill. Paulson says they asked the family not to assist because it was already emotionally difficult, but family were briefed every day. RCMP now tell us it was a 78-year-old woman from Winnipeg who died after being hit by a train yesterday. It happened in La Brocquerie during a parade to celebrate Saint Jean-Baptiste Day. People in the town near Steinbach say they are in shock. Steinbach RCMP and CN Police continue to investigate. An organization that helps women move out of abusive homes is looking for volunteers in Winnipeg. Shelter Movers provides free moving and storage for people who want to get to a safe space. It started in Ontario 8 years ago and has spread to the Maritimes, Quebec, Alberta, and BC. Founder and CEO Marc Hall-Jacquin says now they're expanding to Winnipeg. He says a woman may request help at a shelter or health center, and they then reach out to Shelter Movers.
We have relationships with storage facilities all across Winnipeg, and so we will make sure that there's free storage available. And then we'll go to the home, and she points to what she wants to move, and we load it and pack it and bring it to the storage facility, and then we'll put her and the kids in a separate vehicle and get them to a safe location.
Hall-Jacquin says they will work with shelters and Indigenous organizations. They plan to start operating in Winnipeg this fall. A fourth girl has pleaded guilty in the death of a homeless Toronto man. The girl was 14 when Kenneth Lee was killed and is now 16. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter this morning. Lee was 59 years old when police say he was stabbed by a group of girls in December 2022. 8 girls aged 13 to 16 have been arrested in connection with his killing. 2 have also pleaded guilty to manslaughter, the third to assault causing bodily harm and assault with a weapon. The Trudeau government says it has started the process of issuing tariffs on Chinese batteries and electric vehicles. Here is Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Our government is taking clear, strong, decisive action to protect Canadian workers, to level the playing field, to prevent oversupply, and to prevent transshipment through Canada.
Freeland says China is overproducing EVs and batteries to undermine global competition. The United States has come to the same conclusion, and they've announced a 100% tariff on Chinese EV products that will go into effect later this summer. It's not clear yet what Canada's tariff will be. The process still has to go through an anti-subsidy investigation. The Oilers have a shot at the Stanley Cup tonight, and phones are ringing off the hook at bars and restaurants across Edmonton as fans try to secure their spot to be part of the celebration. The CBC's Madeline Smith spoke with some of those local businesses.
From White Avenue to West Edmonton Mall and in the heart of Oilers action downtown, the Stanley Cup final is filling every seat in bars across the city. At local pub MKT, event coordinator Piper Rollins says fans were ready well before Game 7 was even a sure thing.
This game was 99% booked maybe 3 weeks ago.
Sports Bar First Round is preparing for a packed house tonight. Assistant manager Chase Narabeski says fans won't miss the chance for a celebration this big.
It's 18 years in the making and could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of people.
With the Stanley Cup on the line, the Rogers Place watch party is sold out, and thousands more will flood the fan zone outside the arena, hoping to see the Oilers win it all against Florida. Madeline Smith, CBC News, Edmonton.
Winnipeggers can watch the big game here in the city on a big outdoor screen at True North Square. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30. Just a heads up, in the Brandon area, CBC is doing maintenance that could impact both Radio 1 and 2 in Brandon. Short sporadic outages are possible throughout today. You can try to hear Radio 1 on 990 AM. You can also get the latest on our website.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon. But as you heard, they are experiencing intermittent outages there, 100.9 FM in Thompson, everywhere on the CBC Listen app, and of course on our CBC Manitoba YouTube live stream. Hello to those watching. It's Monday, it's June 24th. My name is Chloe Fries, and I'm filling in for Janet Stewart. Lots to come on the show today. Who are you rooting for in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals tonight? The Edmonton Oilers, longtime rivals of the Winnipeg Jets, or the Florida Panthers? You can call us after 12:30 for our call-in segment. But coming up first on Radio Noon, an update on a fatal train collision in La Broquerie that happened yesterday during the town's Saint Jean-Baptiste Day celebrations. As we've been reporting in the news, people in La Broquerie are in shock after a fatal train collision happened during Saint Jean-Baptiste Day celebrations yesterday. RCMP now tell us it was a 78-year-old woman from Winnipeg who died after being hit by a train. Bob Tickner was on a float when he saw the train closing in on a crossing on the town's Principal Street.
All of a sudden, the brakes went on. We heard the squeal, and you could smell like the brakes. It's really sad that an event like this was spoiled by an incident like this.
Ivan Normando is the Reeve of La Broquerie, and he joins us now. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing all right, but Ivan, how are you doing today?
Oh, not bad. It's been quite trying morning and trying day yesterday, but it's getting better. So slowly but surely.
What are you hearing from people who were at the parade yesterday and from people in the community?
There a lot of them are shaken up. Like I wasn't witness to what happened, but I've talked to many people who were witness, who saw everything happen, and it's unfortunate. And all the support is in place at the local schools here, and even a school in St. Anne, just so if any of you as the students need to talk, they have counselors there ready for them. As it was witnessed by many individuals, and a lot of them were young kids. So it's been pretty tough.
What is your understanding of what happened? I know that you didn't directly witness it, but what have you heard?
What I've heard is just, I think the individual were trying to cross, and it's true. Like there's a lot of stuff going on during the parade, and it's loud and stuff. And if you're not from the area, sometimes you're not sure how long and how fast these trains come through the road. Like these trains are going pretty quick, so sometimes the judgments you kind of miss your judgment, and unfortunately things like this happen. So,
where were you at the time?
I was probably about half a block away, watching a parade where I usually watch every year. So I was very close, and then it was trying on the kids, and it's trying on the volunteer firemen who were all there. Majority of those guys were most likely thinking of spending the afternoon with their family and their kids, and next thing you know, they're at a train crossing for the whole afternoon. So obviously our support and we can't recommend enough. These volunteer firefighters here in the Brokery are great, and we're happy to have them. So,
how busy was the parade? Can you paint a picture of how many people would have been there?
Well, a parade usually maybe about 2,000 people usually watch it. Like if it's spread out during all of Prince of Wales Street, so it's the mainstay of the weekend basically. So a lot of people come out, especially it's like at 11:30 in the morning on a Sunday. So usually people go to the parade and make their way to the Ball Diamonds after, and have games for the kids and activities for the adults too. So I would venture to say at least 2,000 people was there for sure. So.
What can you tell us about what you know about this crossing? Has it been seen as a dangerous crossing prior to this event?
No, I don't think so. Like the crossing has the arms and the bells and whistles and everything else. So the Brokery has a train going through here every 30 minutes. So for a local who I've been here all my life, you get used to it, right? And you know how fast these trains travel. But for an individual who maybe hasn't been around trains as much, sometimes you think you have more time, and then next thing you know, you don't have enough time. So, yeah.
The RCMP and CN are still investigating this collision. What do you hope comes out of any further findings?
I don't know. It's too early to say what. I know there's been discussions already about trying to find out with CN if especially during these types of events, if they can somewhat slow down to go through town. But I know it's a business, and that doesn't happen overnight. So that might just have to have some new I guess not relationships, but discussions with CN to see if that's ever even a possibility. So.
Now, you mentioned some supports that are available in the community. Can you remind us of where people can go if they do need someone to talk to?
Well, obviously the schools all have their support there. And also on top of that, I know Santé Sud-Est here have a crisis line that people can phone if ever they need to talk to somebody. I know it's been shared already on Facebook, and I think that would be where you need to go. So.
All right. Reeve Normando, thank you so much for joining us today on Radio Noon.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you.
Ivan Normando is the Reeve of La Brokery. Now, Southern Health does have mental health resources available. Just call 1-888-310-4593. That's 1-888-310-4593.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
The time is 12:13. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, everywhere on the CBC Listen app. And hello to our viewers on YouTube. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Janet Stewart. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, coming up on the show...
Oh, way to go, Oilers! I'm so proud of you! You can do it! Let's go!
Who are you rooting for in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals? I think I know who those people are rooting for, but the Edmonton Oilers, longtime rivals of the Winnipeg Jets, or the Florida Panthers, led by former Jets head coach Paul Maurice. You can call us after the 12:30 news and join the conversation. Really looking forward to that. Also, coming up here on the show, from rundown farmhouse to charming historic home, we'll hear about a 27-year renovation project with one of Manitoba's last remaining grand stone farmhouses. And it is up for sale. Definitely stay tuned for that. Taking a look quickly at our forecast in Brandon, currently 26, a mix of sun and cloud, wind west 30, gusting to 50, a high of 27. In Dauphin, a mix of sun and cloud, wind south 20, gusting to 40, high of 27 as well. In Thompson, mainly cloudy, 60% chance of showers and a risk of a thunderstorm, high of 20. And here in Winnipeg, we are looking at a sun-cloud mix, risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon. Temperature sitting at 24. There is a house for sale. A historic house just outside of Brandon is now on the market. The Sanderson House has been described as one of the grandest farmhouses in Manitoba. The structure features a lookout tower and a wraparound veranda. It's one of the last remaining grand stone farmhouses still standing on the prairies. Records show it was built in the late 1800s. Scottish farmer John William Sanderson built it. It's now owned by Bev Proctor and her partner Dell, and I spoke to Bev this morning.
Hi.
When did you first buy Sanderson House? What inspired you to renovate it?
Yeah, my husband, Dell, is a recording engineer, and he was looking around for a place in the country where he could put his recording studio. And it just happened that he met the owner here, and he had this stone house that had been abandoned for about 3 years, and so he bought it, very naively thinking, oh, well, I'll fix it up. It'll be great. Yeah.
What state was it in?
Later.
You say naively. What state was it in when you bought it?
Well, it had been abandoned for 3 years. Nobody had lived in it. So there was there was electricity, but it was electrified in the late 40s. There was no plumbing. We put in the first toilet. The veranda was very, very decrepit, and it was just generally very run down, but with great bones. We knew it was going to be something if somebody would just take it on.
And you two took it on.
We did.
Now, there are photos of the house because it is up for sale, so the listing is online. But for our listeners, can you describe a bit what it looks like?
Well, it's a 4-square stone house. It has 4 equal-sized rooms on the main floor. There is a part that goes back. It's rectangular, and in that part, it's got our utility room and a bathroom and things like that. And it's stone, 2-foot stone walls. So the windowsills are deep and lovely, and you can put lots of things on them. And it's just a beautiful house. Big windows facing south and tall ceilings. They really knew how to build houses back in the day.
Can you talk a little bit about the historical aspect of this house? Because it comes with a story.
It's famous in the neighborhood. When we first moved here, there was a steady stream of people, of neighbors and family coming down the driveway and saying, I remember this house from when I was a child, and it's prominent because it's the only stone house for miles around. And one day, a family drove in, and they were called the Sandersons. And he, Jason, was the great grandson of John Sanderson. So they had come all the way from South Dakota to see this house that was part of their family.
Wow.
So that was really interesting, yeah. And I'm still in touch with them.
What did you learn about John William Sanderson from meeting his family?
Well, we learned that he was a gambler and a bit of a scoundrel. He came out from Scotland in 1882 and worked on a farm in Ontario, and then took off with the farmer's daughter and used her dowry when he came west to start buying farmland here.
Wow.
So he did that, and I guess he did very well. The price of wheat was extremely high, and, they had small holdings because they didn't have the equipment that farmers do today. And he just built up, and then he started building the house, and then he had frost 2 or 3 years in a row, early frost, and the crops weren't viable, and he owed a lot of money because he'd taken mortgages out everywhere. He was a gambler. And then they were about to foreclose on the property. He left his wife and 3 children and went somewhere, nobody exactly knows where, and she actually talked the bank and the creditors into letting her put in the crop and see if she could pay off some of the money. And it was a bumper crop, and she did very well that year. And then she went back to Ontario to her family. And then 9 years later, he showed up, and she took him back, and they had 2 more children. And one of the grandsons of that later family is alive and is a writer in New York City.
I feel like someone needs to make a movie about this house and its history.
I know. The story is fascinating, and I've done a lot of research, and then Tracy Sanderson has done a lot more than me because she's into ancestry, and she's done a lot. And at some point, they changed their name from Sanderson to Sanderson because I guess he had such a bad reputation. Nobody wanted to be associated with his name.
He also had a nickname that's very familiar to Brandonites.
Yes, he was known as the Wheat King.
A classic.
Yeah. The Wheat King.
The Wheat King.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you were renovating this house, you were adding to it, you were fixing it up, how did you balance preserving that history with making it livable?
We carefully, I say we, that's the royal we, Dell, carefully took out all the fixture, like the woodwork and the baseboards and everything else, and we stored all those pieces. And then we stripped it down took out the lath and plaster, stripped it down to the studs, insulated and wired and plumbed, and he took apart the old windows and put dual panes into them. That was quite a job too. And then we had it drywalled, and then we very carefully put back all the woodwork. So it looks like an 1890s house, but it's modern.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I've been looking at pictures all afternoon. Now,
thank you.
Why sell the house?
Oh, we're getting older, and it's a big house. It's a big, responsibility to keep it up. And the yard's, it's sitting on 10.5 acres of land. So, yeah, we're just looking for new adventures. We're just ready for a different life.
How does it feel putting it on the market? Do you have any hopes for what might happen to the Sanderson house?
Well, I hope that whoever buys it loves it as much as we do, and that they keep the integrity. It's kind of a nature refuge because we're treed 10 acres in farmland. So I hope that they keep it as it is. I mean, they're going to put their own stamp on it, of course, but keep the woodwork, keep the cupboards, the kitchen cupboards still made himself using old doors that he got at the Restore. He's just put his life into this place. So, it's really mixed feelings. We're extremely sad, but at the same time, we know that there's another life out there, and somebody will take it on, and hopefully it's like passing the torch.
Well, Bev, thank you to you and Del for preserving a piece of Manitoba history.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
That was Bev Proctor, owner of the historic Sanderson House. The house is now on the market if you want to own a piece of Manitoba history. And I've got a tune for you about an old house that just gets better with time. Have a listen to Matt Epp with his song, This Old House.
This old house has a porch and it wraps around. This old house has a porch and it wraps around. Like my love for you. 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 This old yard has a well and it goes down deep. This old yard has that old well, it's been dug down deep. Like my love for you. 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 This old car, it always drives, it'll never die. This old car always drives, it'll never die. Like my love for you. 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 And I wonder if you ever know I made your heart my home. And you wonder if I'll ever know this house has a heart of its own. This old heart is getting old, but it still burns. This old heart is getting so old, but it still burns with my love for you. 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 This old. This old. This old. This old heart. This old. This old. This old house has seen it all. This old house has a porch and it wraps around.
That's Manitoba's own Matt Epp with the song, This Old House.
You have lots of questions about your own life and this really complex world around you. I'm Sarocha Coelho. I'm the host of the new live call-in show, Just Asking. I take your questions about what's in the news or your finances, health, even your relationships, and then throw them to an expert. Just Asking. Let's figure it out together.
Just Asking with Sarocha Coelho. Live Saturday afternoon at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, and on CBC Listen.
You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, maybe on your Listen app, or hello to our folks watching the YouTube live stream. Great to have you with us. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in today for Janet Stewart. A quick look at our forecast. We've got a risk of severe thunderstorms as we head into the late afternoon, east of the Red River Valley into southeastern Manitoba. Our main threats today being large hail and gusty winds. Slight risk of maybe some tornado activity as well, but our CBC weather specialist, Riley Lachuk, will, of course, have more details for us. It's looking fairly dry, though, for the rest of the week. A good chance of showers on Friday. Something there's a 100% chance of is a Stanley Cup Game 7 tonight. The Edmonton Oilers back in Florida for Game 7 in that Stanley Cup final. The Oilers hoping to make history, while the Panthers hope to regain their game-winning form in the nick of time. Coming up, we will ask you who you're rooting for and why. Coming up in our call-in conversation, we'll be speaking with Trevor Alexander. He's a writer for the Hockey Blog. And if you want to call in and just chat or tell us who you're cheering for and why, you can give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Give us a call. Let us know who you're cheering for and why. You're cheering for a Canadian team to finally take the cup. It's been a few years. Or maybe you're a fan of Paul Maurice and you want his team to win. Give us a call. We will chat about that soon. Your CBC Local News is next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Rosanna Hempel in Winnipeg. At 12:30, it's 27 in Winnipeg. Sun and cloud today, a risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon, a high of 28. An American police chief who has studied landfill searches says a number of factors could help in the search for the remains of 2 Indigenous women. The search at the Prairie Green landfill is expected to start in the fall. Brian Paulson was police chief in Nebraska when in 2003 they unsuccessfully searched for the remains of a young boy. He says landfills are meticulously organized and sealed daily, which means what's buried there can be protected from the elements.
We got to the bottom of the landfill. Our body was placed in the landfill in January. We found snow and ice that was preserved, and we went in late June, early July. So temperatures in probably the 90s, but then reaching the bottom of the landfill, the temperature was about 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Paulson says the family was briefed daily on what his team found, but Paulson says they kept the family members away from the search because it was so emotionally difficult. A 29-year-old woman originally from Dauphin River First Nation is Winnipeg's latest victim of homicide. Police say in the early hours of yesterday morning they were called to the 500 block of Balmoral Street. There, officers found the woman with life-threatening injuries. She was taken to hospital where she later died. She's been identified as Norma Jean Sumner. No arrests have been made, and the investigation is ongoing. For Oiler fans right now, the clock cannot move fast enough. Tonight, their team will face Florida one last time this season with the Stanley Cup and a lot of history on the line. The CBC's Sam Sampson is in Florida with more.
Lifelong Edmonton Oilers fans like Jeremy Halischuk say the story itself is worth flying 4,000 kilometers.
Everybody wants to be a part of it. Everybody wants to see history made one way or another.
The Oilers have forced this final game after being down 3-0 in the best-of-7 series. The only team in NHL history to win the Stanley Cup after being in the same position was the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs. The Oilers can also bring the cup back across the border for the first time in 31 years, an opportunity for Zach Hyman knows could ignite hockey fans across Canada.
It's very much embedded in Canadian culture, and it's how I grew up, so it would mean a lot to, I think, all Canadians, regardless of if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan or not.
Panthers fans hope they get to see the first Stanley Cup for the franchise. So either way, this cup run is one for the history books. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Sunrise, Florida.
And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 1:30.
Thank you so much, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
And just a reminder, we're going to continue chatting about that game tonight. You can give us a call on our Radio Noon line here, 204-780-0893. We're going to be talking with Trevor Alexander with the Hockey Blog in Canada about who you're rooting for. Riley, can I ask you?
It's tough because there's a lot of Canadian connections on the Panthers, but also the Oilers are Canadian.
Yeah.
I know.
So you're just going to live happily in the middle?
Yeah, I'll try.
As long as both teams have fun?
Yeah, I'll try.
All right. What about the weather forecast? What are you looking at?
We're going to shift gears and talk about a little bit of active weather that's happening across parts of our province, and notably into eastern Manitoba and parts of northeastern Manitoba. Severe thunderstorm watches and warnings in place right now for, so the watch encompasses sort of Norway House, Barons River, into sort of far northwestern Ontario, sort of north of Red Lake into the Sandy Lake region, as well as the Little Grand Rapids area where we have a severe thunderstorm warning at the moment. Radar coverage not the best that far north, but also compounding that we don't have the Woodlands radar working right now. But we do have lightning tracking working, and that is showing us a cluster of thunderstorms kind of moving across sort of the north basin of Lake Winnipeg right now, on hitting the coast into the area just north of Barons River. So likely seeing some showers through Barons River into the afternoon hours, and another cluster of storms that just went through Little Grand Rapids and is now off into northern Ontario. So that's the situation there. For the rest of us, mainly sunny in southern Manitoba, a few scattered showers kind of moving along, a little area of instability in northern Manitoba. The main risk for thunderstorms in the south comes later this afternoon and to the east of Winnipeg and the east of the Red River Valley. So think sort of Highway 75 east to northwestern Ontario. That's where you have the greatest potential for thunderstorms this afternoon. Hail potentially up to the size of golf balls, wind gusts up to 90 kilometers an hour. So again, like I always say, when we talk about thunderstorms, doesn't mean it's going to thunderstorm everywhere, but the risk is there that we could see some thunderstorm activity through the afternoon hours. Few scattered showers through northern Manitoba today. Areas like Thompson, Flin Flon, the Paw picking up some scattered showers to the afternoon, evening hours, maybe a few rumbles of thunder this afternoon. And then we do see that risk of thunderstorms popping up into far southeastern Manitoba through the later afternoon, early evening, crossing into northwestern Ontario by about 8-9 o'clock this evening. So if you have outdoor plans this evening, in Winnipeg and west, you're in fairly good conditions. It will be muggy. I'll let you know that now, that it's going to be quite sticky outside through the afternoon, evening hours. But into northwestern Ontario, that chance of a thunderstorm kind of dies off into the evening. Mainly sunny for the most part tomorrow, but there is the risk that we could see a few scattered showers in the later afternoon once again across the south. Wednesday is looking mainly sunny, and we're entering kind of a drier pattern to wrap up the week. Right now, 29 in Portage, it's 28 in Morden, 27 in Winnipeg and Brandon this hour. But Chloe, factoring in the humidity, already feeling closer to 35 degrees in both Portage and Morden Winkler when you factor in the humidity. So yeah, like I mentioned, it's going to be a sticky and humid afternoon across the south. Feeling like 33 in Winnipeg right now, and feels like 21. Not much of a humidity factor into northern Manitoba. And factoring in the dew point temperatures, that's what's really going to make it feel sticky out there. Through the afternoon hours, we're looking at dew points in the south in that 19 to 21 range, which is borderline muggy to uncomfortable through the afternoon hours. So be warned that it's going to be a bit of a humid one this afternoon.
Be warned.
Yeah, topping 30 in Portage and Morden Winkler this afternoon, 28 the high in Brandon, 27 in Winnipeg, and 18 in Thompson. Tomorrow, 23 in Winnipeg, clearing towards sunshine on Wednesday, 22 degrees, Thursday, 25, and a good chance we could see a few more showers rolling through on Friday.
Well, we've been warned.
Yeah.
Thank you,
lots
Riley.
of water today.
That's a great idea. Thank you so much, Riley.
Welcome.
That was CBC weather specialist Riley Laychuk. He'll be back later in the afternoon with more weather updates today on Up to Speed. Well, it started with 3 straight losses for the Edmonton Oilers, but in the opening minutes of Friday night's Game 6...
Ekblad and Gustav Forsling. Forsling pass for Reinhardt too far. Skinner out to play that. St. Reinhardt played for Chris Knobloch with the goofy ice in his first year of junior. In fact, as a 15-year-old played along with his brother. Here's Draisaitl working in. Leon Draisaitl in front. Scores! Warren Fogle!
Oh, such a great sound. Oilers forward Warren Fogle scoring first for the Oilers, putting them up 1-0 over the Florida Panthers early in that game. They would go on to seal the deal with a 5-1 win over the Panthers. And the Oilers could take it all tonight in Game 7. Whether you're an Oilers fan or not, tonight's game will be historic if they win. So, who are you rooting for? The Edmonton Oilers, longtime rival of the Winnipeg Jets, or the Panthers, led by former Jets head coach Paul Maurice? Trevor Alexander joins me in the studio, writer for the hockey blog in Canada. And you can join our conversation. Tell us who you're rooting for and why. Call us at 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Trevor, welcome.
Thank you.
Can you walk us through these first 6 games? How did the Oilers get here?
Well, I mean, the first 3 games were, completely one-sided in that Florida kind of dominated from, start to finish and didn't really give the Oilers a lot of breathing room. The next 3 games looked like a completely different series in that, Edmonton found a little bit of room, used some quick transitions to get out of their own zone, pushed the puck up the ice, and all of a sudden everybody was back on their heels for the Florida Panthers. So, tonight, not to steal, any of Riley's thunder, but tonight the heat is on for both these teams. So, we'll have to see.
I like it. They felt like decisive wins, those last 2 games.
Yeah, no doubt there was, some very distinguishable scores in there where, that 8-1 pounding that Edmonton handed Florida was sort of the beginning of the little sort of comeback there. And you kind of look at what they've done, and they've played extremely well defensively. They've kept players to the outside, haven't let players get to Stuart Skinner in terms of keeping guys out of the middle. And then obviously transition the puck up the ice quickly, got it back down the ice, and really put some good pressure on Florida and pucks on the net for finding goals and at least not goals, rebounds and chances to pick up the puck again.
I mentioned this could be a historic win, and if the Oilers win, what is that history that will be made?
It actually goes both ways for the Oilers. So it's for people that don't know this. 1942 was the last time a team rallied to win the Stanley Cup, being down 3-0.
Wow.
Toronto Maple Leafs did that, and so Canadian team has a little bit of history there. The last team to rally to force a Game 7 in a Stanley Cup and lose was in 1945 when the Detroit Red Wings did it. So one way or the other, Edmonton's going to write some history tonight, one way or the other, just because of the significance of that Game 7 setup. But whether win or lose, they're going to be the new sort of footnote in history.
And it's been a while for the Oilers, just in general. They last won the Cup in 1990.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and they made the Stanley Cup Finals in 2006, but lost to the Carolina Hurricanes.
Correct.
It's been a while, but the fan base seems like it just doesn't budge.
Let's not take anything away from the City of Champions. They kind of prided themselves on having that sort of winning mentality for so long. It went away a little bit in the 90s when they sort of had to retool, rebuild, and then came back, like you said, in 2006. But legitimately, this is a franchise that hasn't had a lot of, significant losses in the Stanley Cup final. They lost to the Islanders way back in, 70, whatever it was, 78 or whatever, before they decided to start, winning Stanley Cups. But at the end of the day, let's again, you got the best player in the world playing for a team in Edmonton again, in terms of having Connor McDavid there, having Wayne Gretzky there. It seems like this might have been, I don't want to say written in the stars, but at the end of the day, it's almost impossible. If he wants to take over a game, he can, and that's literally what happened in games 4 and 5.
Can we put this success just only on McDavid?
I don't know if that's entirely fair to say it's only him. Obviously Stuart Skinner's playing better. Obviously their defense is playing better. Leon Draisaitl's looked otherworldly as well. He's been showing everybody why he's the best player that's ever come out of Germany, and in the way he's playing. They're getting lots of contributions, especially shorthanded from guys that you may not expect. It's a, I don't want to say death by committee, but it's led by McDavid for sure. Mm-hmm. But everybody else is pulling their weight as well, which is kind of nice to see.
Right. If you're listening and you want to join in on this conversation, if you have thoughts on who you're cheering for, maybe thoughts on which players are making a big difference, someone other than McDavid, or maybe you're just a big McDavid fan, give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Now, speaking of fans, there's a lot of excitement in Edmonton. Here's what some of their fans had to say. They were watching the game Friday at Edmonton's fan zone called the Ice District.
Oh, Way to go, Oilers! I'm so proud of you! You can do it!
I graduated today!
So what was better, the graduation or the win?
I think the win. I got 2 degrees. This beats it. I'm not gonna lie.
This has been 18 years in the making. We have a jersey from 2006 when they were last in the Stanley Cup Finals. Look at this here. We are there. We are taking this cup. We are taking this cup.
I drove here from Blackfalds and I seen our Jets still running, ready to head back to Florida. Let's go!
Okay, let's talk about the fans and the fan support. That the game, this previous game, Game 6. How much do you think that the fan support really galvanized the team in that win?
I mean, you look at the way that they set up the arena. Everybody in that arena's got literally looks like they're wearing a jersey. Like it is completely orange and or blue in that arena, no matter where you look. And they've done a great job. I mean, it's hard to compete. We heard it on that first clip where Draisaitl scored as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny hearing 16, 17,000 fans all, let's go Oilers all at once. It's a big part of it. And we talk a little bit about, in sports anyway, about how fans can sort of, sway the momentum one way or the other. In this case, them going home for Game 6, that was a huge, huge benefit for the Oilers for sure.
So now they're not at home. What change do you think that will make?
It'll be different to see what Florida gets out there tonight because, we do know there are a lot of Canadians that are down in Florida most times.
That's very true.
So it'll be interesting to see how many Florida fans come out. Take nothing away from people that want to go to this game. The ticket prices for this game are insane on the secondary market. Like, we're talking, tens of thousands of dollars for tickets.
Tens of thousands.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be the hottest ticket to get in Florida at any point this year, sort of thing. But at the end of the day, though, Florida's fans could be a factor in this game, if not, a little bit of a momentum sway. I guess the big thing to look at is, again, Florida 8-5 at home, or 8-4 at home this postseason. Edmonton 7-5 on the road, but they did win a Game 7 in Vancouver to advance as well. So maybe it's a 50-50 when you look at it, but maybe the fans, again, can push them over the edge a little bit, give them a bit of an advantage on that, and have the Panthers show up a little bit better than they have in the last 3 games anyway.
Let's talk about Paul Maurice.
Yeah.
He's taken the Panthers franchise to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
No qualms about it. Paul is a fantastic quote anytime he's in front of a mic. He's a great coach, has a good mind for the game. Did great things here in Winnipeg. Let's take nothing away from that as well. He turned this franchise from sort of, the former Atlanta Thrashers into the Winnipeg Jets. And you kind of go, all right, he knows what he's doing. He's got a great group of guys there that legitimately believe in what they're doing. Is it enough to get them over the line? We'll have to see. Obviously one game and any bounce can sort of change how the game goes. But at the end of the day, though, Florida has benefited from hiring Paul Maurice in a big way.
Do you think any Winnipeg Jets fans are maybe cheering for Florida because they still have a bit of a attachment to Paul Maurice?
I won't lie in saying that the 1980s have destroyed any sort of chance of Winnipeggers cheering for Edmonton. The Gretzky era was an absolute killer for Jets fans if you were around at that point. Beyond that, though, sort of the new generation, I think it's divided. Obviously, a lot of kids like McDavid, a lot of kids want to be like McDavid, whereas Paul Maurice is kind of the coach that was. I think you're going to get a pretty even sort of line in Winnipeg, depending on your age gap, and that's really where I look at it. I for one would want to see Paul Maurice win. He's been around long enough. He's done enough that he could win. Dmitry Kulikov is there as well. He was a former Jet, but that's besides the point. But on the other side, Mark Stewart's coach is an assistant coach for the Oilers as well, and Mark Stewart did a bunch of stuff for the city as well when he was a player here. So you're kind of divided if you're looking at just that. Who do you want to win? But let's not make any qualms about it. Paul Maurice legitimately could be a Winnipegger if he wanted to be. So, he was loved here for the time he was here.
He definitely was. What do you think the fact that it's been 30 years? I believe it's 30 years since a Canadian team.
Yeah, 1993.
Yeah. Took the cup. Do you think that's going to sway any Jets fans?
There have been, especially from the U.S. media, there has been a lot of it's Canada versus
Right.
us.
I've seen a lot of that out there.
And I don't know. I don't think that people Canadians are pretty much, a group of people that are going to cheer for their own anytime that we can. Whenever Team Canada plays, we always got, everybody behind the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to draw those lines demographically, though, when we were talking about regions. It's not like Islanders fans go across the bridge and start cheering for the Rangers when they're doing well. There's a serious divide there. Same thing, Tampa Bay is not cheering for Florida right now. Lightning fans hate Panthers fans and vice versa. So I don't know if it really exists that way. It would be nice to see, obviously, a Canadian team win, and I think a lot of Winnipeggers are okay with that in terms of having a Canadian team win. Yeah, it stings a little bit that it has to be Edmonton, but as long as Canada can erase that 1993 mark, I think we're okay with that.
All right. Well, if you're listening and you have something to say about whether you're cheering for Edmonton or not, even as a Jets fan, we still want to hear from you. 204-780-0893. You can give us a call. I want to go back to the last time Edmonton was in a Game 7 situation. They lost, and there was some post-game riots on White Avenue. A loss probably wouldn't do that in an away game, hey? People aren't going to be as
it depends.
Passionate?
I think that the hype has caught Edmonton pretty hard in that nobody expects them to lose tonight. Nobody. I mean,
really?
And again,
okay.
I'm not saying that there aren't doubters out there, but I think that with the momentum, with the 3 games they've played, with the way they've looked in those 3 games, I think there's a lot of believers in Edmonton right now that this it's ours. It's ours to lose. It's not a matter of them winning. It's ours to lose.
Right.
And that could trigger maybe somebody, but you would hope that doesn't happen. I would like to say that doesn't happen, only because why?
Well, yeah.
I get it's your chance, but it's also why? It shouldn't bring about those kinds of reactions, in my view anyway. But end of the day, though, we'll have to see what happens.
We'll have to
tonight,
see.
so,
Okay, what are you going to be watching for in tonight's game?
Obviously, I want to see first goal is going to matter. Whoever scores the first goal will set the tone for the rest of the game in terms of what's going on. So, I mean, if you're relying on the last 3 games, Edmonton's been out in front early, which has been good for them. If you're relying on the first 3 games, obviously Florida got out in front and they could play their game after that. Beyond that, I think you're going to have to see special teams step up. Edmonton's penalty kill has been incredible. They scored 2 shorthanded goals. They've denied all but 1 power play goal for Florida so far. Florida's got to find a way to break through that and find a way to prevent Edmonton from bringing it back on them. And then lastly, goaltending. I think goaltending is going to matter. Bobrovsky has not looked like he came into the series, everybody talking about Conn Smythe, everybody talking about how he's the MVP, how he's going to, be the guy this year in terms of leading Florida back to the promised land. And the last 3 games, he has been anything but, and Stuart Skinner's looked the opposite. So whether Stuart Skinner steps up, whether Sergei Bobrovsky steps up, one of those goaltenders is going to have to make a big save tonight, and probably several big saves tonight in order to win a Stanley Cup.
A lot of eyes on this game tonight. Thank you, Trevor, for setting that all up for us.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Trevor Alexander is a writer with the Hockey Blog in Canada. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers happens tonight. Puck drops at 7 p.m. And in any cup run in Canada, there's one song to rally the fans. For the Oilers, it's La Bamba. It's a song for Oilers fans. That was La Bamba. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers happens tonight. Puck drop at 7 p.m.
CBC Sports is your source for sports coverage and insights you won't find anywhere else. Get the athlete's real story on the Player's Own Voice podcast, hosted by Anastasia Busis. Find Player's Own Voice on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. And whether you're a hardcore fan or just looking to hold your own in the conversation, the Buzzer newsletter helps make you smarter about sports. Subscribe today at cbcsports.ca/The Buzzer.
You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this afternoon for Janet Stewart. A recently discovered dinosaur is named after the Norse god of mischief, Loki. The bones of the Lokiceratops were uncovered just south of Alberta in Montana near the Milk River. The details on Lokiceratops were outlined in a paper released late last week. Mark Lowen is a lead author on the paper and a paleontologist at the University of Utah.
This dinosaur is amazing. So it's one of the horned dinosaurs. And what's cool about it is, like Triceratops, it would have had elongated horns reaching off above its eyes. It has a large head shield on the back of the animal. But what's different about this animal is it lacks a nose horn, and then it has huge canoe paddle-like blades coming up the side of the back of its head shield. When it was alive, it probably weighed about the same as an African elephant. The specimen is actually housed in a museum in Denmark, the Museum of Evolution. And in honor of Denmark being a Norse country, we had pretty much settled on using the word Lokiceratops to honor the Norse god Loki. And as we reconstructed the skull and started to recognize that it had these giant horns coming off of its frill that looked like either blades or like the horns on the helmet of the god Loki, it became even more and more appropriate. We noticed as we were reconstructing the frill that one side of the frill has different length of horns than the other side of the frill. So it's similar to the patterns that we see in caribou. So literally this animal is named Loki's horn face that looks like a caribou. The fact that we're actually missing the nose horn, and then the horns are all stretched out at the back of the frill, is starting to get us to think that these animals are much more like birds, and they're using these horns as ornaments rather than weapons. So certainly this animal is the most massive herbivore in the swamps that were present during the Cretaceous, both in Alberta and in Montana at the time.
Mark Lowen is a paleontologist at the University of Utah and lead author on the newly released paper about Lokiceratops. You're listening to Radio Noon. Just coming to the end of the show here, but first, Faith Fundal, host of Up to Speed, here to tell us about what's happening later this afternoon on the show.
Hello, Chloe Friesen. Is it a collective agreement technicality, discrimination, or something else? We're going to have more on why a Manitoba union has filed a grievance over top-up benefits for maternity and parental leave. You folks probably remember that story on the morning show and all throughout the news. We're going to hear from a professor, assistant professor of law at the University of Manitoba, to sort of unpack the technicalities into what this dispute is all about.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
It's going to be an interesting chat. Thank you.
That's host of Up to Speed, Faith Fundal. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in today for Janet Stewart. Thank you for tuning in. And a big thank you to our team who helped put together the show today, making the YouTube look just so very nice. The live stream, Travis Peterson. Our technician today is Dylan Longhurst. Our director is Wendy Parker. Also thanks to May McKillop, one of our producers on today's show. Our show producer is Nellie Gonzalez. Our senior producer of audio is Leif Larson. Thanks again for tuning in today. Lovely spending a bit of your afternoon with you. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Coming up next, the next chapter.